So let's talk about Hakeem Olajuwon, right? I see a lot of people throwing the word greatest, the greatest, the greatest, the greatest. But when we're talking about the greatest, there's a lot of things that goes into the greatest, right? So let's break it down because we have to be able to explain what we mean by the greatest. So let's break it down, right? Let's put him in the context of his own era and project him onto our own era, you know what I mean? Because that's the true test of a player's genius. So let's set the stage. The 1980s and the 1990s was the golden era of the big men and the centers, right? We had, in the 80s we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we had Shaquille O'Neal in the 90s, we had David Robinson, the Patrick Ewing, dominant big men, right? And to me, I think when you're talking about big men, they have three categories that you can categorize the big men, right? The first one is brute force, the dominance, the brute force, and we're talking about Shaquille O'Neal, a young Shaq who was just dominant, backs into the rim, dunks on you, just sheer power, right? Then you have the fundamental big man, right? We're talking about the Patrick Ewing, you know what I mean? The back to the basket, the jump hook, the mid-range jumper. And then you have the athletic freaks. We have the David Robinsons, who their dominance was based on their athletic abilities, right? And then you have Hakeem Olajuwon, who didn't really fit into any of these categories. Or he fit into all of these categories because he had that force, probably not the same raw mass as a Shaquille O'Neal, but he had that force. He had the fundamental of the game, just like Patrick Ewing, and then he had the athletic abilities, just like a David Robinson, and then he had his own special sauce, his own sprinkle of that. He had the soul of a god, right? If you was to give Hakeem Olajuwon the ball in the paint, right, he doesn't have a preordained one or two move he could just go to, right? He felt the defender. Is the defender leaning towards the left? He's gonna spin off the right to the basket. Is the defender off balance? He might hit him with the up and down fake, boom, to the basket. Man, if the defender thinks he's gonna drive, he's gonna hit him with a step back, fade away in there. He was a menace, and that's what people called the dream shake. And you might hear the dream shake, and then you might think it's just a one or two move combo. No, 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 no. The dream shake was a language because he always listened to the defender, and then he created his move off of listening to the defender. And people might be wondering where he got his elite footwork from. You gotta realize before he ever touched a basketball, he used to play handball and he used to play soccer growing up. So that helped him so much in improving his footwork when he got into the NBA. Now let's do a direct comparison. We could talk about the 1995 Western Conference Finals when he went up against David Robinson, who was just crowned the MVP of the league, right? And a Defensive Player of the Year. But David Robinson was used to players who had a 1-2 move combo, 1 move, 2 move combo that they always went to. But Hakeem Olajuwon, man, he put out a bag of tricks. Man, that man hit him with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different moves. You know what I mean? Which is a testament to him feeling the defender. Hakeem Olajuwon averaged 35 points in that series. He didn't just beat the newly crowned MVP Defensive Player of the Year, right? He dominated in that series. He was a dominant force that you had to reckon with in that series, which made them ultimately win that series. Now let's talk about the other end of the floor, the defensive side of the floor. I think Hakeem Olajuwon is on an island of his own, right? He's the only player in the history of the NBA to be top 10 in steals and top 10 in blocks. And when you talk about block, he wasn't just like a blocker that became Mutombo or vertical go up, block a shot at the rim and this, that, and the third, right? Hakeem Olajuwon could literally block his shot from the weak side, grab the rebound, or block his shot from the weak side, and he could switch around and still go guard at the perimeter. He was an elite defender. He's on an island on his own when you come to the defensive prowess of a big man. Hakeem Olajuwon blocking highlights is filled with him blocking the shot on the side, blocking the putback again because his swift athletic abilities, his lightning quick agility was so terrifying. So with all this explained, I really think and I really do believe he was the most skilled and most versatile big man of his own era. But the big question is, how would he fare and fit into this era? On the offensive side, he would be a menace because there is not a lot of traditional big men in the league right now who just posted in the fucking paint, right? Hakeem would shatter that logic, right? He would be so dominant in the paint, and if you try to double him, you're in trouble. He was an efficient passer of the ball. Boom. If you try to guard him one-on-one, man, that man will hit you with a bag of tricks, and he will have you out there looking so stupid. And we cannot forget Hakeem was a mid-range shooter. And then with today's game, where everyone shoots and where everyone is a three-point shooter, I think with the right coaching and the right training, Hakeem would have easily been a stretch big shooter from the three as well. He would be an unguardable nightmare in the league right now today. And on the defensive side of the ball, man, he would be a menace. He could guard 1 through 5. He could be a shot blocker. He could guard guards like Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, pickpocket them, man. And he had that quickness, that agility, man. He would be able to keep up with guards today, man. He would be a menace on the defensive side of the ball. I think the closest thing we are saying to Hakeem Olajuwon right now is a Victor Wembanyama, who is efficient on the offensive side. On the defensive side, he's a shot blocker. But the only difference is Hakeem Olajuwon was definitely stronger than a Victor Wembanyama. And when you ask me to compare him to his pair, he was the most skilled and most complete big man of his era. So this is his legacy, right? He wasn't just a product of his own era, right? His game was built on fundamentals that could translate to any era and any set of rules. His power would always be effective. His athletic abilities will always be effective. His transcendent skill would live forever. That's why you have players go to him during the offseason. You have players of the likes of Kobe, LeBron James. I think Victor Wembanyama was with him this offseason because his skill is transcendent, man. Players got to go learn from him if they are trying to be great. That is a true testament of greatness right there. So when you stack it all up, the championship won in a tough era for big man, the skills, the two-way dominance, the artistry of his basketball skill, you have to come to one solid conclusion. Hakeem Olajuwon wasn't just the greatest center of his era. He was and remains the most complete center to ever play the game of basketball.